Good morning. It's a Friday, just a few seconds away from 7:30 here in Western Iowa. How you doing so far? Yeah, the weekend's looking good. Big changes coming. We're going to outline those for you, of course. And we'll even look at our decreased snow depth for Thanksgiving Day. Yeah, sorry about that, snow lovers. All right, here are the current infrared clouds, and this is the main event. You see these popcorny clouds, this unsettled weather, this cold air, this big trough being dug off the west coast, and it is massive, going all the way pretty much equal to Baja California. This trough is going to dig into Mexico. And then we have a low that's going to bottom out here that we've been talking about for several days in Mexico before ejecting into the plains and into the northwest. And so that's going to change our weather pattern dramatically for the last 2 weeks of November. We have our little low here we talked about yesterday too that's exiting the mid-Atlantic. A little bit of shower activity going on here in the Delmarva, and some clouds and some showers and some snow going on in the west. Some high clouds with a little bit of shower activity moving out of the Rockies into the northern plains as well. All right, let's check out, what do you want to go to first? How about the weather spotlight? Omaha, Nebraska. Close to home for me. It's about an hour drive from us here in Harlan, and we're expecting heavy rain by Monday. And Harlan is on this map. If you look on the right-hand side and you go alphabetically, just underneath Fremont is Harlan, and a total rainfall from Monday into early Tuesday is 1.5 to 2 inches of rain. The last storm, we were supposed to get about 3/4 of an inch of rain. We ended up with around 2 inches of rain. So anyway, more heavy rain headed our way. Strong storm system, heavy rain, thunderstorms Monday into Monday night. Most will see 1 to 2 inches of rain, which will fall late Monday morning and into Monday afternoon. Severe weather not expected for Omaha. That's a different story for West Texas, which we'll get in here as well in a little bit. Let's talk about the hazards across the country. You see a big area of fog, so be careful there. Freeze warnings for northwest Arkansas. Our red flag warnings have expanded a little bit in the northeast, and we have our winter weather advisory starting out there in Maine, but also for the Sierra Nevada and into Nevada. Then it's winter storm watches for the Cascades of Oregon and Washington. California with a bunch of freeze warnings up and down the coast, or just barely inland from the coast, depending on where you are. And then it's wind advisories. Be advised it's going to be windy, California, Arizona into Utah, and Colorado. All right, let's take a look at, what do I want to do next? I want to show you our trough that's digging. So we'll take a look at these upper level winds and vorticity, I guess you could call it. So let me start at the beginning and we'll zoom through it. But that's that trough being dug here along the west coast. And then, sorry, it's jumping around on me. All right, and then you can watch that even dig further, boom, into Mexico. And then our low forms in Mexico, far west Texas, ejects into New Mexico, Texas, and then moves right on up into the plains and to the Midwest, and I'd say western Great Lakes before exiting into Canada. And then behind that, we see some very cold air moving in. Well, cold air, very cold air. It's pretty cold. And then that's going to move. Now, this trough is not as deep as the previous runs have shown, and so we're modifying our forecast a little bit. But when we get here to, say, the Ohio Valley, where that low is centered over Ohio, it's still pretty deep trough here into the southeast. So it'll be a massive cool off for the eastern half of the country, really, eastern third especially. And then that low kind of hangs around. It pinwheels on itself, lifts a little bit further to the north over time. This gets us into next weekend. And then we see another low moving into the Pacific Northwest. So that's kind of what's happening. And we'll go through our GFS model here in just a little bit to talk about what's happening with the rain and snow. Here's the 24-hour temperature change. It is cooler in the southeast up to the Midwest and the northern plains. A little bit warmer southwest and also, I guess, the east just a little bit. Surface for today, there's your big storm out west with rain and snow and a mixture, heavy snow, Nevada, Idaho, Oregon, Montana. So yeah, it's pretty big mess out here. You see this cold front too that's moving in through Nevada into Arizona. So it's going to be a big cool off for the southwest as well. A little bit of rain up there, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, etc. Florida has a few showers. And freezing rain, still a possibility up there in Maine. Temperature anomalies for today, cooler west, especially California, Nevada, moving into Arizona. Much warmer northern plains, especially South Dakota, North Dakota, and a little bit warmer in New Mexico ahead of our big trough. Still below average. Eastern Colorado, we're still melting snow here. Highs today, 70s, Texas. 70s hanging in there for southern Arizona, waiting for the big cool off. 60s in the plains, 50s, Great Lakes, Midwest, into the Ohio Valley. Cooler, 40s, a few 30s up there in the northeast. And basically northwest is 40s and 30s. All right, lows turning colder for the western almost half of the country, especially up toward, so I mean, we got a lot of teens on this map. But starting out rather warm in Texas, 50s, and that goes all the way up into Kansas, 40s for the rest of the plains into the Midwest and even the Southeast, and some 30s, of course, up there in the Northeast. Surface for tomorrow, cooling off in Arizona as that cold front moves through, starting to move into New Mexico. Ahead of that, some showers starting to bust out. It's snow. Northern Arizona, Utah, Idaho, heavy snow, Montana. Snow, Wyoming, Colorado, and then a mixture of rain or snow depending on where you are in the northwest. Some freezing rain maybe up there along the Canadian border for Montana and North Dakota. And a little bit of rain along the Texas Gulf Coast. Highs tomorrow, warming up in the plains. Southerly and southeasterly breezes bringing in warmer air ahead of our big cool off. So we see a lot of 70s, even some 80s in Texas. 70s in the southeast where it's going to get cold next week. 50s up there in the Ohio Valley, and for parts of Iowa, I think we're going to be in the 50s where I live. 61 for Des Moines, 50s Great Lakes, 40s Northeast, and 40s Northern Plains, and the Northwest getting even colder. Where is it going to rain the next couple of days? So this is your 48-hour precipitation. Low exiting the mid-Atlantic, a few showers there in New Mexico. Some rain and snow for California, depending on elevation and location. And then we see our rain and snow on the northern plains. Heaviest rain along the Oregon-Washington coast. And a lot of that's going to fall as snow in the Cascades. So our snow, 48-hour snow ending Sunday morning, is expanding in the northwest especially and the west. So we see a lot of snow here, highest elevations, and even getting into the plains of Montana and Nebraska, Wyoming. All right, surface for Sunday as we round out your guaranteed weather forecast through the weekend or your time back. No one's ever called me on that guarantee. Mike, you forgot the weekend forecast. I need my time back. All right, it's kind of like a haircut guaranteed or your hair back. Yeah, it's going to grow back. It'll be fine. All right, northwest, rain, snow, heavy snow, Cascades, Washington, Oregon, higher elevations of Oregon and Idaho, and maybe even some snow finally for Boise. It won't be much and it won't last long, but it could happen. All right, severe also for West Texas, heavy rain for West Texas into Oklahoma. Some of that severe weather could get into Central Texas, and it could get pretty rough. Here's what we're looking at for Sunday. So basically south and east of Lubbock, Texas. Lubbock's in the marginal risk, but the slight risk is, again, south and east of Lubbock, getting into almost Dallas-Fort Worth. But all in Texas here, and we'll start out with some hail threats, some wind threats, but we could see a line of storms form that may have some isolated tornadoes, something to watch out for, and we'll keep you posted here as well. Highs on Sunday, still warm Texas ahead of our big cool off, but look at Tucson, Arizona, a high of 59 on Tuesday, so much cooler. 50s all the way up to Eugene, 49 for Portland, so even cooler in the Northwest. 60s for Central California, but 60s also for Kansas and Missouri and all the way into Ohio. 50s for the Great Lakes mostly, and the Southeast is warm too. Don't get used to it. A big cool off is coming, as we've been talking about. In fact, let's kind of show that to you now. Let's go back to, where am I? There we are. We'll go back to the GFS model here. Let's see if I can get us to current. Here we are. And we see again, our big trough is digging southward here. We still have scattered light snow happening in Montana and Wyoming. Here comes our big storm for the Northwest with rain and snow. Again, this trough is digging. It is, can you dig it? We're getting into Sunday here. And as that trough bottoms out and our low forms in Mexico, New Mexico, moving into West Texas with heavy rain forming here. Again, some of these storms will be severe. And then once they line up and start marching eastward, could be some tornadoes in that. Meanwhile, the Northwest with another storm with heavy rain and snow in the mountains. And look at that. From Midland, Odessa to Lubbock, Texas, is heavy rain here. This is late Sunday night. And this storm's going to move rather quickly. But, as we get into Monday morning, still snow on the backside in New Mexico, but heavy rain. And again, this line of storms now forming, which could have those isolated tornadoes. Meanwhile, the low lifts northward into the plains, heavy rain for Kansas, into Missouri, starting to get our heavy rain here in western Iowa. This is Monday morning, about 9 a.m. Central Time. Snow in the west and rain along the coast. And then as we get further into Monday, that heavy rainfall from Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, moving into Minnesota and Wisconsin. The line of storms still from Missouri, now Arkansas, into East Texas. And in Louisiana, this storm starts to gain a little bit of strength, a little bit more wind here on the backside, and the cooler air starting to drop in. But you notice here we're seeing a lot less snow on the backside on this run of the GFS than we talked about yesterday. I mean, a little snow finally wraps in here by Tuesday noontime, but not the blizzard we were talking about for Minnesota, and they're probably happy about that. I don't know. Most normal people don't like cold and snow. I love it. Anyway, cold air sinking in behind the low, moving into the southern plains even, and into the Midwest. Meanwhile, another system for the Pacific Northwest. Heavy rain, heavy snow there. Our hurricane, not really. I don't think we're going to see a hurricane now for Florida. Maybe some tropical moisture and some storms and some showers. But no hurricane, so that's also good news. Meanwhile, our low now moving into the Midwest and Ohio Valley, cold air following behind it. So I know we're going to be in the 30s with wind. This is Wednesday. And when we get into Thursday too, 30s for highs with wind for where I live in Iowa, and then our storm system for the Pacific Northwest. And as this low pinwheels in the Great Lakes, we're going to see some snow and some rain and some wind, and also the cold air behind it, but not getting into Texas as much as the previous forecast. So Texas, you might stay a little warmer than we were talking about yesterday. Pacific Northwest, again, rain and snow. This low really bottoms out and gets very strong. A 976 low, very strong winds across Ohio, Indiana, Michigan. Snow on the southern part with the cold air wrapping into the low, and rain on the northwestern side. This is a little unusual. We'll see how all this plays out. Showers and storms out ahead of the low. This gets us into Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon. Again, the low kind of wobbling around the Ohio Valley and now into the east. And we're starting to see more of that rain and snow. We're seeing less of the lake effect snow, but off of Lake Superior, though, it's really coming down for the UP of Michigan. So you might get a lot of snow here. We got some lake effects, too, from like Traverse City down to almost Grand Rapids. And then it's rain coming off of Huron and Erie. And we'll see if it gets cold enough for for those snow jets to turn on, and they finally do. This gets us into next weekend, and we'll start to see some of that lake effect snow coming off of the eastern Great Lakes. But yeah, the UP of Michigan is going to get hammered, it looks like, with a lot of snow off of Superior. We get into, again, this is a week from Sunday, and we see some snow along the Canadian border and another low, strong one, off the California coast. And just for fun, let's just see what happens with that. Moves into the northwest. We've got some heavy rain, well, some rain for the Ohio Valley. We've got, again, unsettled weather in northwest, now moving into the plains. Finally, the plains might get some snow by the end of the month. And so this takes us to the last day of November. Finally, some snow for western Iowa into Missouri, Kansas, and Nebraska, if this comes true, because it's quite a ways away. All right. Where am I going next? We talked about that. We did the weekend forecast. How about this? Our 8 to 10 day temperature outlook, getting colder southeast, like much colder, and warmer west as we get to the last week or so of November. And then precipitation-wise, kind of drying out, just maybe a little bit above average for precipitation for California, Northern Plains, and for Florida. Alaska looks snowy, at least for the northern 2/3, and also Hawaii. Here's your snow cover for Thanksgiving at noon. And this is much less than we were showing yesterday. But that's the way the cookie crumbles, and we still have time for things to change on these model runs. So it's just kind of fun to track it and see the trends and to find out what's going on. And of course, we'll keep you posted. But maybe not a white Thanksgiving in western Iowa after all. Or, we still have a couple weeks. Maybe our fortunes will reverse in the runs. We'll keep you posted as we go, of course. Have a wonderful Friday. It's kind of redundant. Have a good Friday. And we'll talk to you tomorrow morning right here on the Weather Mic. Thanks for tuning in.